Hey, what's up everyone? So we all know that when it comes to remote working, one of the most important aspects is the tools that you use to collaborate with your team. So today we're going to talk all about different remote working tools that are out there, different options, and show you the best ones so you can really boost your productivity as a team, as a whole remote team. So whether you're managing a remote team or just an employee and you want some ideas to bring back to your company, or you want to know which tools you can ask about companies you'd like to work for to get a feel for if they're using the best tools, this is going to give you all the info you need to learn more about all that good stuff. So without further ado, let's dive right in. All right, so the first category when it comes to remote working is the chat. This is, most companies use Slack, and it's basically a replacement for email. It's kind of like the water cooler. Instead of going around the office and chatting with a coworker or asking a question or maybe exchanging some information, that's where you can chat with the whole team, even if people are remote and just in totally different places. So it tends to be like a water cooler. Team discussions go there, and links are shared and so forth. So that's a really core piece of the remote work setup. Now, Slack tends to get a little bit crazy and messy. Like people are, having different conversations in different channels, and people might be reaching out to you with questions or messaging you all the time. So you feel like you have to be always on. So a great alternative to look into for that chat to kind of improve the workflow is called Twist. So one of the things Twist does a bit differently is it has this thing called threads. And so those actually work pretty differently compared to Slack threads. It's actually its own first class part of the application in addition to channels. And it's meant to collect all of the conversation around a single topic or talking point and do so in an asynchronous way that people can add things and really build out that conversation more. So it almost is in between the chat and a Google Doc compared to just a Slack chat. And so the other cool thing about Twist is it's actually created by the company that brought you Todoist, and so they're a fully remote team. So they totally know about the remote workflow and about work-life balance. So built into Twist are just a ton of user experience niceties that really encourage that work-life balance and being off when you're offline. All right, so the next thing is all about video chat. So even if you have that chat platform where you're communicating with the team, you're still gonna wanna have meetings, whether that's your daily stand-up meeting, whether that's team meetings, or if you just need a little face-to-face to hop on with a coworker. So there's a bunch of different options out there, but Zoom is still the most popular. So Zoom is pretty simple and straightforward. It works for most teams. It is paid. So the free alternative is actually Skype. Skype works pretty well for smaller teams, and it's just a great option to have. Now it just means everyone from the company will need to install Skype. But yeah, great option for smaller teams on a budget. So the final thing I want to mention about video call for your company is if you're kind of looking for a different option, you can actually check out this new thing called Cantina from SignalWire. So it's really meant to address some of the issues that people have with Zoom. So it's meant to be more reliable in terms of the network, as well as a cheaper option and really focused on security. So if those are certain things that you're interested in, check that out. It's in beta, so this is gonna get you ahead of the game. Definitely check that out. So another thing that's similar to having a meeting is actually the ability to co-work with a coworker or with your team. And this can be good to kind of give that feeling of being in the office. It's something you can experiment with on your team. And so one way of doing that is called Tandem. So it's basically like a co-working chat app. You're in the channel, you're in the room, there's people there. And so if that fits into the workflow for your team, definitely check that out. All right, so for remote teams especially, project management is super important. So this comes down to planning all the tasks that are going into the various projects throughout the organization, keeping them all in one place, and just having a good workflow. Like what is going to be comfortable that you can share links and resources, make connections between different pieces of information, and just have everything accessible that you can always find the info you need to do your work. So we recommend a couple of really cool tools for workflow when it comes to product management. So the first is called ClickUp. So if you ever heard of something like Monday.com or Asana, those are kind of like the to-do list things where your project team lead can assign tasks and things like that and keep track every day of how's the progress. So ClickUp actually combines a bunch of these main features that are necessary from that kind of workflow application, and it really just is best in class. They're kind of a bit newer, so definitely check that out and see if that works for you. Another one I want to recommend for product, especially for product managers or for startups that are consumer focused or targeting a niche, is called Product Board. So it's just really cool. It has a ton of features. It basically helps a startup to build the right features if you're building like a SaaS application or something like that. So definitely check that out. So the final thing I want to mention is basically just an alternative to Google Docs. It's called Notion. So it's a newer company. They're kind of like just a really nice document application, and they let you build all these cool little modules like little databases and little Kanban boards into your document. So maybe even in the past you use something like Confluence Wiki from Atlassian for internal documentation, or maybe you've used Google Docs for documentation and planning. So I recommend checking out Notion as just a great alternative that you can use. It just fits into the workflow much better, and they have a lot of powerful features. Okay, so while we're on this topic of best tools for remote workers, I wanted to touch on design specifically and design workflow. So if you're a designer, you're probably using tools like Sketch or Figma to collaborate, which are great tools. Definitely check those out for designers. The other thing you might be using, of course, is the Adobe suite of tools, industry standard. But maybe you need to collaborate with your team, show off prototypes and mock-ups, and communicate the design to the coders for any of those web type of designs or mobile or any software. So one thing I'd recommend checking out is Marvel. This is basically a prototyping tool that lets you take your PSDs, so these designs that you've created, and just upload them from anywhere, no matter where you created them in any of those tools I mentioned before. And it's just super quick and easy to link up those hot links to basically make an interactive prototype that's like clickable, and that's super good for workflow for getting it from the design phase to building it. So the last thing for design specific is called Avocode. And so this tool is basically the workflow taken from the design to the developer. So at the end of the day, if you want pixel perfect UI designs, Avocode is going to be the tool for you. So what's going to work, how it works is that you upload your designs from anywhere. Again, it could be Sketch or it could be Adobe tools, anywhere. And then when you upload it, Avocode scans those layers and figures out the correct styles to translate into front-end code in various languages. So definitely check that out. That can be really powerful for your team. All right, so one tool specifically for marketing is called CoSchedule. It's really awesome. It basically lets you take all of your marketing to different channels and organize it in one place. So you can make campaigns for marketing and just keep everything organized, because that's kind of one of the toughest things about internet marketing these days. There's just so many different channels and you want to get reach to all of them, but organize everything in one place. So check that out. It's called CoSchedule. All right, so bonus round. Here are 3 extra tools that are really good, especially for remote teams. So the first one is called timezone.io. So it's very simple. All it does is tell you what time zone your team member's in. And this is just super useful for distributed teams that are kind of all over the place. You just need to know like, oh, are they awake or not, and that kind of thing. So just a really helpful tool to fit into the team workflow. Now, another tool, this one is actually more for freelancers, but I'm sure that companies can also figure out a way to fit in their workflow if they're creative. It's called Calendly. And so basically it's very great tool that lets anyone schedule a meeting into your calendar, and it syncs up with your calendar. It knows when you're available, and then it just offers those meeting slots to whoever you're able to, you can send the link to. So you can use this throughout your team if you have a larger team. You can also do this for if you're a freelancer and you want to set up client meetings and things like that. So they have a lot of powerful features to configure those different types of meetings and to ask the questions that you need to prepare for that meeting, so that it kind of does everything. You're ready to go. You never have to send 5 messages back and forth to say, oh, are you free at this time, or are you free at that time? So Calendly, check that out. All right, and the last tool is called Miro. And this is basically a workflow tool that lets you do whiteboarding fully remotely. So they have a really cool like sticky notes board and like a lot of different little features that you can do for creative sessions and for planning. And they have a ton of different plugins for this, so definitely check that out. It's called Miro. All right, so that wraps up a quick overview on some of the best tools that you can use to really power up your workflow, especially if you're on a remote team or if you're a remote worker. So definitely check those out. And yeah, let us know in the comments if there's any tools you would recommend that are really powerful, especially for you know, remote workers, remote teams. If you like the content that we produce, go ahead and subscribe, and that way you'll be notified when we put out new stuff. We're doing a whole series on remote work, how to, you know, really power up remote workers and productivity and all the good stuff. So keep a lookout for more videos that we're producing. If you like this video, go ahead and throw a like. And yeah, thanks for watching. And again, just let us know in the comments what you think. All right, bye now.